Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 553. Our top expansions that improved or made the base game better.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
It's kind of a bad title I came up with there because doesn't improve mean it made the base game better?
You just wanted to reiterate. That's
It's a little redundant.
Yeah.
We just
Maybe
really
somebody else needs to be in charge of it.
Just wanted to drive the point home.
The Meeple Nation podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. They have amazing product. Their toppers are super high quality, improve any game night. Go check them out. GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holliday.
I am Douglas Stewart.
And I'm Nathan Howard.
We would be thrilled if you would go over to our website at meeplenation.com. Check out links to all of our episodes. We have blogs and photos of some of our gaming experiences. We also have a link to our Patreon page. We love our patrons. We thank those of you who are our patrons already. We thank you for your support and for the ability you've given us to improve the podcast and improve the listening experience for all of our listeners. If you too would like to be a official member of Meeple Nation, click that Patreon link and join us. We also would love to hear from our listeners. If you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to share with us, or any new games that have come out that you would like us to test out and try and maybe talk about on the podcast, hit us up at meeplenation@gmail.com. We love to hear from you, and you never know, maybe your question will be featured on one of our episodes. Check us out, meeplenation.com.
So I just checked my watch, and it turns out it's highlight 30.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
So let's jump into some amazing highlights. Doug, what have you been playing?
Ooh, I am so excited. Okay, so a little while back, we talked about the top shelf of shame games that we really wanted to get off. And guess what?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about those.
I'm getting to one of mine. Primal: The Awakening.
Oh, nice.
Oh my goodness, you guys, this game has not disappointed at all whatsoever. It's so good. This is a giant monster boss battle style game. So the idea is you're gonna pick one of your characters and you get an amazing weapon that for most of them is like twice the size of the player's body. It's one of those
Oh, wow.
like the blade is twice as big as the person wielding it.
It sounds
kind of things like a Japanese anime almost.
Like a Final Fantasy VII cloud.
Yeah, it kind of has that vibe for sure.
Nice.
But it's got like super high quality artwork on all of this stuff though. You pick a character and basically, there is a story, there's a campaign and a ton of like leveling up and upgrades and all that kind of stuff. But every game is just going to get played on a simple mat where the monster is going to be sitting right in the middle. And then there are 4 quadrants around it. And you have the option to basically on your turn to move. And then what you do is it's kind of a deck builder. So you play your cards out into sort of a lineup. And you execute the abilities on the cards. But all of the cards are multi-use, like you can do a ton of different stuff with them. And there are offensive and defensive cards. Only certain cards can do damage. Certain cards affect the game in certain ways. Certain cards can be played when it's not your turn to assist other players. And so it's really puzzly in that regard, like not only with what you're doing, but also like cooperatively at the table so you can defeat the boss. And these bosses do not pull any punches at all whatsoever. They are so hard. So Brigham and we've been playing through it. There's a prologue scenario that was actually fairly easy. I mean, it wasn't too much of a challenge, but then once you dive into actually fighting the monsters through the story mode, they are super challenging. And the last one that we just fought, we had to play it twice because the first time we lost, and the second time was incredibly close.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's very challenging boss battler. The minis that come in this game are phenomenal. Awesome. Yeah, they are incredible. They are some of the coolest minis I've seen.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, this sounds pretty cool. I want to get it played before the end of next year.
Sounds good.
Is this done by Awaken Realms?
It's not an Awakened Realms game.
That surprises me if the minis are as amazing as you say.
Okay, so the minis are amazing mostly because they are large and detailed, and just the sculpt they've done on them is really cool.
That's great.
If you actually want to start breaking down like the actual quality of the molds, the plastic, and all that kind of stuff, they are not Awakened Realms quality minis, but they are still really good, and they serve the purpose that they're designed for, which is to put a big kind of nasty, mean looking piece of plastic that represents a monster out onto the board that you can fight, and they are very well done.
Cool.
Yep.
Sounds awesome.
Well, I got one to the table that neither of you got the opportunity to play.
Oh, real cool. Cheating on us.
Yeah. Well, you had the opportunity to come, but you had other things to do.
Well, the table was full. So, are you talking about Darwin's Journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here
Yeah.
too.
It was,
were you?
Table
There was
full.
no room for us.
no room. No room in the inn.
Maybe I was just stuck up and didn't want you guys to play.
Wow.
But
Because we didn't want to.
yeah, Darwin's Journey is an excellent game. This is a game where, we played a while back, we played in the footsteps of Darwin. This is not really in the footsteps of that.
I was going to say, there's really nothing in
Yeah.
common with these at all.
Well, you are trying to
Darwin.
Darwin, and you are trying to research some different species that you're trying to find. But this has a lot going on all over the board. There's 3 little islands that you're going to be searching on throughout different parts of the game. As long as you get your boat to those islands, you can send an explorer out. You have workers that you are trying to upgrade. And this is kind of like I don't want to say it's the meat of the game, but it's where I get stuck on the game, is trying to update all of your workers. And when I get all my workers looking real awesome, the game's over.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't win, but
your workers looked awesome.
but my workers looked awesome.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Come on.
So awesome looking workers was not the winning strategy.
Not the winning
Okay,
strategy
got it. Noted.
for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But what you really need to do is you need to get out and you need to do the research on the species and find those out and really kind of focus on there's goals. And there's a series of silver golds and a series of gold goals that you are trying to accomplish throughout the game. And the more of those that you can complete is definitely going to be, that's a winning strategy, is trying to complete those. But the way that you do that could be a variety of different things, which could include making your workers look really cool. But this game was another game that was really kind of a challenge to digest. But since Mike taught it to us, he was all prepared for it, came to teach it, and then we didn't play it a week, and then the next week we played it, and then Mike and I have played it on BGA because there's a BGA implementation of it. And we can play a game on BGA in like a half an hour. And
Oh, wow.
it's something that you can just boom, 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 and then Mike beats you.
Yeah, he does have a tendency to do that.
Yeah, and he's really good. He and Jody should play some games together and see. Then I can just watch, and one of them's going to lose, and I can be happy. But it just the BGA implementation works out really good, and but the game itself plays, once you get it figured out, it plays really smooth. And Mike has the deluxe copy, which had the nice rubber seals that you use to upgrade your workers, but they kind of stick to everything, which is kind of it's like each other.
Oh, really?
So when you're trying to pull them out, they like stick to each other, which was kind of a pain.
Not quite to the extent that your ships for Zaya stuck
No,
together. though, right?
no.
Okay,
Not,
good.
that was wet paint that was
Never
super
dried.
tacky paint. Yeah, that was awful. But no, it's just the back of them are kind of adhesive.
Oh, okay.
Not adhesive, but they stick together very well. And but the deluxe copy looks really nice, and the BGA implementation works really well. But Darwin's Journey is an amazing game. I'm a little upset that Mike took it home and hasn't been here for a couple of weeks because I really want to play it again and maybe have to go buy it.
I have the non-deluxe edition,
Oh,
but it's still in shrink.
well, let's bust that out.
I'm surprised you haven't bought it already.
Maybe I did.
I think you probably have.
I haven't actually.
You could probably look around. You may have forgotten. Are there two copies of it somewhere in here?
Yeah,
Why you got to be such a jerk?
with extra deluxe components and a recharge kit.
The recharge kit. But yeah, no, Darwin's Journey is a great game. Very much enjoyed it. It's on the heavier side for sure, but has some good times.
Awesome. No, I'm excited to hear that. That's definitely one that's been on my list.
So I have not had a chance to play very many games as of late.
Why?
Just my daughter recently got married. I don't know if you knew this, Nathan.
Yeah, I heard something.
My daughter recently got married. So because of that, hardly anything has been played. However, when you all came and helped me the night before the wedding, we busted out 16 pork butts. We talked about this last week, but we busted out 16 pork butts, got them on the smoker. We had an assembly line going. It was awesome, which gave us a little bit of time to play one game. And so we got to play the Great Split. We've talked about that before on the podcast. It was awesome. I was happy to at least get one game to the table.
Yeah.
And I suck at that game. I have fun playing that game, but I am terrible at the Great Split. And I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is, but I always think I'm splitting the cards in a way that's going to be, I know what the other person's going to pick, and they always pick the opposite one. I'm like, dang it. You picked the wrong one again.
Yeah.
But it's still a fun game. I think my favorite part about that is that everyone was just as tired as I was once the game ended.
Yeah. It was, everybody was looking a little vacant in the face.
And I was beat. And when Richie after you all left, it was just Doug, Richie, and myself. And Richie's like, hey, I want to play this game with you. And Doug's like, yeah, I don't got another one in me. I'm like, oh, thank you, Doug. I am so tired.
Yeah.
And I've got an early morning ahead of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was great. I'm glad we got at least one game to the table, especially because it had been a bit of a dry spell that week. And I had not had a chance to play much.
So the Great Split is one of those games that I very much enjoy playing, but it's never one that I'm like,
let's play again.
Let me pull this off the shelf.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And it's great because it goes up to seven pleeple.
Pleeple. Yeah.
It goes up to 7 pleeples.
Pleeple Nation.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, if the whole copyright on Meeple thing goes through,
We can totally
there's our backup.
switch that. Yeah, pleeple.
Yeah, Pleeple.
We better copyright that right now.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about that.
Copyright it fast.
Patent pending, copyright pending.
What? But yeah, Great Split is, plays 7 people and is really quick to learn, really quick to play. It's all simultaneous and it plays really well. But for some reason, it's not one that I'm like, what can we do?
Let's play the Great Split.
Yeah. But I'm glad Doug brought it that night because whenever we play it, I'm like, that was really a fun game.
Yeah,
I
it is
really
a good game.
enjoyed that.
And the fact that it plays a higher player count without adding a ton of extra time is super nice.
Yeah.
It really is.
That simultaneous play is awesome.
Well, and I knew we were going to be getting together. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be there, so I just grabbed it really quick. It was because I'm kind of in the same boat. It's not one that I just automatically gravitate to or toward, but I was looking at the shelves and I was like, ooh, if there's more people there and we want to play a fast one, like I just was like, okay. So I threw that in my bag with a few others. And I'm glad I did because we had exactly 7 of us there and it accommodates 7.
It's like you planned it.
And yeah, it was awesome. And,
it was perfect.
I like that game more and more. Every time we play it, I like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's a good game.
Awesome. Well, those are some good highlights. We've had some fun times. Let's get into the meat.
It's quarter past.
It is.
Time to get
into the meat.
highlight 30.
Time to get into meat. Quarter past. We're going backwards.
Oh. It's quarter 2.
It's going to be highlight 30 again here in just a minute, guys.
So we'll talk about this for 15 minutes and then we'll come back to highlights.
Come back and repeat those same highlights. For those who missed, who tuned in late.
Do you even time, bro?
No.
Okay.
All right. Are the top expansions that improved or made the base game better, or it made it better and improved it?
I'm sitting right here. You don't have to make fun of it. I admitted that the title was terrible.
Some of these expansions improved the game, but didn't make them better.
No.
Oh,
Can't have one without the t'other.
All right. So what have we got? Let's start.
Well, I came out my list a little bit different, maybe. I looked at my list of games where there's an expansion out there, and I have 10 games on my list, and all 10 of these games are games that I would say you never play without the expansion.
Okay. I like that.
And so the expansion was so changing or needed in the game that it was, I in my opinion, that this is you must play with the expansion if you play this game. And having played Settlers of Catan way too much, hundreds of times, I mean, back in 1995, that was the only game we had, and we played that 4 or 5 times a night. And so that game really kind of got very samey and very dry pretty quick. But with the expansion, Cities and Knights, I will never willingly play Settlers of Catan again without including Cities and Knights.
I am 100% in agreement with you.
Yeah.
There's no reason to even play it if you're not playing the Cities and Knights expansion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it enhances the game so much. It gives you a whole new level, a whole new challenge that makes the game fun.
Yeah. And you're right, though. I mean, when Settlers came out, it was fun because it was new, and the gaming world was nothing like it is now.
Yeah, the gaming world was in its infancy.
It really was. And when Cities and Knights is still, it would make Settlers enjoyable.
Yeah.
Even today, right? It creates enough variety in the gameplay to where it's not just so samey. Like everybody's trying to do the exact same thing throughout the entire game, and it comes down to just die rolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether you're lucky enough to be on the right numbers at the right time, or the D6 don't completely hate you like they do in every other game for me and Doug.
True that. I haven't played Catan for years, but I do remember Cities and Knights being like the best. Like that was like the expansion to have for sure.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the Seafarers. I enjoyed the exploration. Seafarers just tends to bog down the game.
I agree.
But Cities and Knights just, it gave that game the shot in the arm that it really, really needed.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
My next one is actually along the same lines as that. It's a game where you have to play it with the expansions. Otherwise, the game is, in my opinion, terrible. And it's one that I was actually really disappointed in until I got the expansions. And that is Champions of Midgard. I was so excited for this game just because of the theme. And it just looked amazing. And I played it and I'm like, and I just didn't care for it. And I was so disappointed. And then I picked up Valhalla in particular. What's the other expansion now? I can't remember it.
Dark Mountain.
Dark Mountain was okay. I don't think it's necessary. You have to play with Valhalla.
I do agree. Although I just don't think, I mean, at this point you just play with both of them, and that's the game.
It is.
Champions of Midgard is just Champions of Midgard with both of those games.
Both the expansions?
Yeah, with both of those expansions mixed in. There's just no reason to take them out.
I agree. And I think that it felt like to me that without Valhalla, it almost felt like they purposefully took out a integral part of the game so that they can
make more money later.
Yeah, to create an expansion. Yeah. That's what it felt like to me.
It did feel that way a little bit, yeah.
Like it was missing. And I don't know, but it really completed the game. It made the experience what felt like just a disappointing, wow, that game had so much potential, but really kind of sucked, into that was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And that Valhalla expansion in particular really, really turned my opinion around of Champions of Midgard from not really ever wanting to play it again to being willing to always play it if it hits the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the expansion that lets you snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, right? Because it is, you get to actually convert all your dead stuff into something useful.
For sure.
And then, it has a whole board for that, and perks and extra dice and everything like that. Whereas before it was like, oh, all my guys died.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Dang.
On to the next round.
Yeah. I'm going to spend all this time rebuilding all my guys, whereas you get the benefit of losing guys, losing your dice, your warriors, right? Yeah. It was huge. It was a huge improvement to the game.
Yeah. Well, sticking with the Viking theme, the first one on my list that I wanted to talk about was A Feast for Odin, the Norwegians expansion, which for me, this is absolutely the way to play A Feast for Odin. Now, the base game is phenomenal. I wouldn't say, I would not go as far as to say that this is an essential expansion. However, it changes up the formula in such a really great way. And primarily what it does is it streamlines a lot of things, and then it adds that fourth row of action spaces that allows you to do really powerful stuff with one or two of your workers, with the caveat that going to one of those worker placement spots has to be the last thing you do. Like if you put workers there, you can't place any more workers. You are done for the round. So, it introduced a good puzzle that way. It didn't just like give you a bunch of powerful stuff. You have to think about how to time it and everything. But this is already such a great game, and the Norwegians just, I think, improved it. It added like for example, some of the animals, like I think it's the pigs that it added that don't have to go through the lengthy breeding process. They just like multiply every round. So, it allowed for a little bit more strategy as far as that goes. And it also introduced some new like sized pieces that I think helped a lot with some of the puzzly nature of laying all this stuff out on the boards. So I think that this, while not an essential expansion, I think this is absolutely the way to play A Feast for Odin is with the Norwegians expansion.
Nice. I've only played A Feast for Odin once. I probably ought to try it
a
again.
couple of times, and I think I need to try it again because we played in person. Richie did a really good job teaching me how to play it and kind of held my hand as we went through it. And then I've played it since, and it's obvious that I don't know what I'm doing.
Maybe that's my problem is no one held my hand while I was playing this.
I will hold your hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll teach it to you guys, Kim, and I'll hold your hand.
Sweet.
I'll hold both of your hands.
Oh.
How are
Yeah.
you going to play? Is your teeth?
We're talking metaphorically, right?
Well, I'm out.
No,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was.
Okay, this got weird.
It's only weird if you make it weird.
Apparently, I made it weird.
All right, Nathan, what else is on your list?
So the next one, going back to an old classic game, Carcassonne. Carcassonne is another game that we played a ton, but Carcassonne always kind of had a dry start. And it wasn't until the river was introduced that changed Carcassonne for the better and made it so it's a game that you can't play without the river. You shouldn't play without the river.
Well, and the publisher and designer would agree with you. This is actually kind of a deep cut because a lot of people, if you've played Carcassonne more recently, a lot of people don't even really know
that it was not included.
That it wasn't included.
Yeah.
That this is actually like a 10 or 12 tile expansion was how it originally came out. It's just included in every copy of Carcassonne now.
Yep.
Like it's kind of just essential at this point. This, in my opinion, is an essential expansion.
Yeah. And all the other expansions with it are kind of nice, but not essential. But yes, the river is an essential expansion for Carcassonne. It gives you a nice starting spot that allows everybody to branch off that and begin playing and not crowding and not getting stuck to the point where, oh, I want to put a guy out, but I can't put anybody out because every place is taken.
Yeah.
I get that. The next one I want to talk about is Dead Men Tell No Tales.
This was on my list as well.
This is the Kraken expansion for Dead Men Tell No Tales. And
When I first saw your list, I was like,
that's not an expansion.
no, I was just
you're
saying that that game's great as it is. And then I was like, oh, wait, the Kraken? Yeah, that's the expansion? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a must.
It's a must-have. I mean, the game is fairly challenging without the Kraken expansion,
It doesn't matter.
but
You still need it.
you still need that Kraken. It is just for the overall experience of the game, much less the fact that it does add that other level of difficulty. You have to defeat the Kraken in order to win, on top of getting your treasures and getting off the ship. But just to have that Kraken attacking and tentacles showing up on the ship, it really improves the experience. It changes that game from already a phenomenal game to a
Amazing game.
That was so cool and fun to play. And without that expansion, I just think it is a cool cooperative experience, but it's nothing compared to what really that Kraken expansion brings to it.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Another one on my list, the next one on my list, I should say, is Revive, Call of the Abyss. Revive is a game that I absolutely love. This is definitely a top 20 or 30 game for me. But that expansion, Call of the Abyss, just amps everything up. It adds a whole new board, right? And it adds new components to every aspect of the game that change it in some really powerful and fun ways. It adds new tiles that go out onto into the sort of central map that you create. It adds new scoring opportunities and everything, new cards, you name it. It just really, I think, flushes out the game in a new way, but it's not just a more of the same expansion. The stuff that it adds is explosive and awesome and changes kind of fundamentally how you think about the game and how you strategize. And again, and I don't know, maybe this isn't really a thing. I keep thinking about all these things we're talking about is well, is this essential or not? And maybe that's not really an important distinction to make. I don't think this is essential, but I do think that
It's great.
but it's awesome,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, the base game is phenomenal as well, but boy, if you love it, if you love that base game, this is one you should definitely add after you've played that once or twice and got a feel for it, because it just amps it up. It just cranks it.
Yeah.
all the
I mean,
way.
I've only played this expansion the one time, but it improved the game considerably for me, and
Yeah.
maybe even made the base game better.
I totally agree. Yep. 100%.
Just had to squeeze that title in there again.
Yeah. No, that's why I agree, because it
Okay.
improved it and made it better.
All right, going back to some more classic style games.
Oh, moron.
Zombie Dice. Zombie Dice is a little can game where you're rolling, chucking dice, and trying to collect brains. And you collect, I think it's 20 brains, and you win. However, there are 2 little mini expansions. Most of the times they came in a 2-pack, Zombie Dice 2 and 3. And I think now they're all just sold together. But that is which is the double feature, which includes the hunk and the cheerleader, and then there's also the school bus. And the school bus just adds a fun theme element where your runners can get away. You get hit by the bus. You drop brains, and all sorts of events that can happen when you roll the bus. And then the hunk and the cheerleader add some variety, some difference in the dice face when you're rolling those. Just a simple little dice checking game, but I think these 2 little expansions are essential. And like I said, I think if you find the game now, I think they're all included in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so well worth if they're not included, it is definitely worth the search to add to your game.
Nice.
Very cool.
I'm going to go with some classic games, but also a little newer. I'm going to kind of include, lump these 3 together, and that's Descent, all of the Descents. So Descent First Edition, Second Edition, and Legends of the Dark. That being said, I do think that the expansions improved Descent First and Second Edition more so than Legends of the Dark, because of adding more combinations for characters, where you can't customize your characters in Legends of the Dark like you can in Descent Journeys in the Dark, First and Second Edition. I think adding the expansions and increasing I think it increases the replayability. You add more monsters. You also can add different classes, a lot more classes, and a lot more characters. So it allows you to create far more combinations and different cool things that you can pull off during the game. Legends of the Dark, Legends of the Dark, I think the expansion, as far as it goes, improved the game just because it kind of allows you to continue the story. It's one of those where you finish the game and you're like, okay, you didn't finish the story. So what happens next? We have the expansion. I have it. We need to start playing it. We're trying to get some of us through the base game again so that we can play it and continue that, since our base group that's played that first playthrough of the base game is no longer around. So we need to get through that first playthrough again so that we can start again with the expansion. I believe there's another one coming out as well.
Yeah, there is.
I wish that it was a little more like Descent Journeys in the Dark, where you could customize a little bit more.
It's the customization, right? Like it
really
does.
is.
It just needs a little bit more as far as that goes.
It really does, to make it so your character's yours, right? And so you can make unique combinations like the first and second edition of Descent did. But that being said, I think that the expansions really improved this game, and for me at least, second edition in particular made the game far more enjoyable, having all those options and different character options to play.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I'm not familiar with all of the expansions that came out for Descent Second Edition, because that's what you have the most of.
Yes, for sure.
Right. Would you say, how many of those do you think you really need? Like, honestly, for you need them all because that's like your jam.
Right.
But if I'm sitting there and I have I've got Descent Second Edition sitting on the shelf and I'm like, okay, I need to get like 1 expansion or 2 at most to just enhance this game. Like, what are the best ones?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for monster variety, then the monster packs for sure.
Okay.
If you're looking for character variety, then you're going to want to get some of the box sets that actually are going to have the characters. They'll have monsters in there too. So that's probably going to give you a little more bang for your buck. If you can find them, which is because they're out of print, so it will be a little more difficult to find. But yeah, if you can find the actual boxes, the box sets, those will give you characters, they will give you new monsters, and they will give you new scenarios as well that you can play. If you're just playing with the app, then obviously gaining the expansion packs in the app that will increase the adventures themselves that you can play. That's always nice. But yeah, it kind of depends on really what it is you're after. If you like playing the characters you're playing, but you just want a wider variety of monsters, then totally go for the monster packs.
Some of those bigger games like that are nice that they give you so many options.
For sure.
I mean, it can drive you crazy if you have FOMO and you just want everything no matter what. But you know, for those out there who are a little more selective, it's kind of nice to be able to I want some more monsters, I'll get these, or I want some more characters, I'll get this, or I want a new story, I'll get this.
Yeah. And the nice thing that Fantasy Flight did on this, I think, is they didn't overdo it. I think, which we're going to talk about this later on my list, spoiler alert, but Shadows of Brimstone almost has too many expansions.
It has a lot of
they're
content.
just cranking stuff out for that one.
And it's hard to get everything, whereas, you know, I love that game, so I want to get everything, but it's really expensive to try to gain all that content, and it comes out so fast. You're like, I'll get text messages from Brian, hey, this came out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even get the stuff that's been out for a while, much less the new stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, let alone get it all played.
For sure. Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, maybe that's a good segue. We'll just talk about it since we're here. The reason why Shadows of Brimstone is on my list is because it has, if you're going to play it and you're going to play it consistently, I like having, number one, character options. Number two, I like having not fighting the same things over and over and over again. I like having a wide variety of monsters. That was kind of one of the things I've been purchasing more of on the expansions, not necessarily for the characters, but more for the monsters. And then the scenarios. So almost every single pack, whether it's a monster pack or one of the boxes, comes with a scenario book that you can play, and it is going to be specific to the content in that box that whether it be monsters or whatever the new stuff is, so that you actually get to experience some of the new content that's coming out, which I really like. So I think they've done a great job with their expansions. It can just be a little fire hosey at times.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Shadows of Brimstone, man, because almost none of them would be essential expansions, but the variety is insane.
It's insane. Yes. And I think it makes it better. Just having like I said, the variety of monsters makes that game better because it's fresh every time.
And themes, right? Because I mean, when Shadows of Brimstone first came out, it was like the Wild West meets Cthulhu.
Right.
And that was it. But as they've added so much to it, it's like you start portaling through all these different realms, and like suddenly it's like the Wild West and ancient China meets like Viking gods.
Yeah. Or you're in the future dealing with Fallout and laser pistols.
It bounce. Yeah, exactly. And so you just start like bouncing around to all these different realms and themes and monsters and stuff. And like, it can be a little overwhelming, I think, the variety. And yet at the same time, part of the excitement of a game of Shadows of Brimstone is like, what random encounter are we going to come up with next? Like, what's the next just crazy thing that's going to happen?
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that some of our funnest games where you encounter something and you're drawing cards that tell you to draw more encounter cards, and you end up with like 2 or 3 rooms full of monsters, and you just opened one door, and you're like, how in the world did this happen? This is crazy. And the fact that you get to see stuff that you haven't yet seen before, and you're like, okay, how does this work? And if you've increased the difficulty level, they have rules for that. So they're going to gain different abilities that you roll for, and they change every time. So yes, there's a lot to it. Yes, there's a lot to wrap your head around every time you play. But I think the enjoyment for the effort that it takes to understand the game, I think it's worth the cost. And the expansions, I think, drastically improve that experience just because of the variety.
Yeah. No, I see that for sure.
Definitely.
But it is.
I get that.
Definitely.
There's a lot. There is so much.
I mean, that's one of those things that probably the reason I shy away from it is because I have acquisition
disorder. You can say
is it disorder or the lack of acquisition? I have a need to acquire.
Yes, you do. You're a completionist.
Yeah, that'd probably be more ideal because that's. I had the same issues with comic books. I had the same issue with you look around, I have the same issue. That issue hasn't gone away at all.
Yeah. Well, and there's no reason for you to do that because I already have the similar issue, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just
I'm grateful I'm not alone. And I'm grateful that we all kind of have our little niches that
Yes.
that we stick in because, I mean, I look at like Marvel Zombies and Zombicide and like, those are great games, but such a fire hose to get. And
A lot of times with Nathan, it's why buy one when I can have two at twice the price?
you buy it for twice the price, you get one free.
That's true.
Exactly.
Then you can have two awesome looking games and shrink on the shelf.
Shut up, Andy. I'm just gonna get like a little
guys.
slingshot, like one of those ones you made in elementary school with rubber bands
Yeah.
and just flick
Paper?
paper
Yeah.
at you. Yeah, shoot your eye out. Hope so.
That's awesome. The next one on my list is Dinogenics Controlled Chaos. Now, when I first started playing Dinogenics, this expansion was already out. In fact, I backed it via Kickstarter. It was the Controlled Chaos Kickstarter with a reprint of the base game. And so when I picked up obviously, both. And so when I started playing this, it was one of those kind of like with Champions of Midgard, where the first time I played it already had the expansions in it, right? So I was, I pulled it out and was learning the rules and everything, and I was like, well, Controlled Chaos adds all the aquatic dinosaurs. There's no way I'm playing this game without all the cool aquatic dinosaurs. So I just kind of hit the ground running playing with Controlled Chaos. And honestly, I have a hard time kind of imagining what this experience would be like without it until just recently, where Nathan and I started playing a game of this on BGA. And I'm like, wow, this is really simple. This is like, I mean, it's fun. It's a really fun experience, but I keep like looking for the extra board of like stuff to do. And it's like, this is really weird to not have all the aquatic stuff and the DNA refinery that lets you, turn some of your DNA into like wild DNA so you can build dinosaurs faster, like that kind of thing. But this game just adds, I think, so much to the base. It's not just the aquatic dinosaurs, it's also the refining lab. And it introduces like the large facilities, the underground network, the open ocean, new species to the base game. Just adds a whole bunch of really great stuff that I think this is one where if you really want to dive into the amazing theme of building your own dinosaur theme park, that you just have to have it.
Yeah, this is one that you've talked about in the past, and I really wanted to play it. And then when I saw it on BGA, I was like, "Ooh, we can sample it here, and then hopefully get enough to get it to the table." So I'm running through my first game of it, and I'm a little bit lost right now, but I'm very anxious to complete it and play it again and again. So, and then play it on the table. I would love to play it on the table so Andy can play maybe.
It's awesome.
You know what? Right now, I'm not very happy with you
I get that.
because
It's mostly my face.
you actually made some sense and about BGA, and I'm not very happy about it.
Well, you should just come play some games
No,
on BGA.
it's because you said that we could try it out before we buy it, and that makes sense, and I don't like that.
Well, did I
Shame
say
on
that
you.
we could? I didn't say anything about try it before we buy it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
just
what I
said we
heard.
could try it
Never mind.
before we
I
could
take it all
play.
back.
Nathan's like, whoa, simmer
yeah.
down.
No,
Backpedal
hold on.
that. Backpedal that.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I take it all back. It doesn't make sense now.
I'm more of the issue of, oh, hey, it's on BGA. I should get it. I should buy it. And then I can try to get my wife to play it. Then I can get her to play it online. And that's probably my issue there.
Oh, what's one of them?
Oh, he is one of them. One of the many issues. Yeah.
Never mind. I misunderstood completely.
Yeah, you were way off kilter there. Yeah.
I just remember we were at Hug a MeepleCon. This was a couple years ago, and I taught this game, and I think everybody had a really good time. Andy, you were at the table, but you had like a horrible headache.
Yes.
And I don't know that you really got to experience this game at all. I think you were
didn't.
just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, I need to play this again because it looked a lot of fun. I don't remember much about it. I just remember being in pain. So it's one of those that I really want to try playing again.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm on board.
All right. Another one on my list is Shadows over Camelot, the Merlin Travels expansion. This is just a little small expansion that includes Merlin. So you have, anytime you go to one of the locations, you have the chance to cause Merlin to travel with you, which gives the players, whether you're a trader or a loyal knight, gives you opportunity to draw cards quicker, and I think brings a lot of what made the original game stall and last longer than it needed to. That really eliminates a lot of that with the Merlin travel expansion. And plus there's a ton of Monty Python lines in it, so it makes it even better.
There you go.
But yeah, that's essential.
So another one I think is essential, and it's also a very small expansion, and this is for the game Everdell, and that is the Legends expansion.
Really?
I don't think you should ever play without this.
So I saw that you put Everdell on here, and I also have an Everdell title on my list. I'm surprised this is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, well, and I really like, if you're talking about Spirecrest, I'm not sure if you're talking about Spirecrest or not. I didn't look at your list.
Spirecrest is one.
So
on my
Spirecrest
list.
is amazing, but I've played without Spirecrest and I still had a good time. And I think that why would you ever play Everdell without the Legends expansion? I mean, it's so easy to integrate into everything. You just start with a legendary construction and a legendary hero or legendary critter, and it just is going to give you a little bit of asymmetry, right? A little bit of a unique situation that only you're going to be able to benefit from. And some of those cards can be really quite powerful and fun to play. And I just don't ever see a reason to ever not have it in. And it plays great with any of the expansions or the base game itself. If you just want to play the base game, it just integrates perfectly with everything. It's one of those that I think is, you just always play with it. You just always have the Legends expansion in the game, no matter what you're playing.
Yeah, I honestly kind of forget this is even like an option to not play with it, because it's just like when you go through setup, you just deliver when they're legend cards.
For sure, yeah.
It's not even. It's kind of funny because I forgot that was even a module expansion, whatever you want to call it. You just always do that. Now the reason Spirecrest was on the list for me was because if you just want some more things to do, Belfair, Pearlbrook, New Leaf, all great expansions. Nothing bad to say about any of those. But if you want to gamify Everdell, if you want to take it to the next level, if you want like Everdell 2.0, right? You mix in that Spirecrest expansion.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you.
So that was why it made my list. But yeah, no, I'm surprised that was what you were meaning when you put Everdell on your list. That's cool.
So I've only played Everdell the one time, and I relied quite heavily on the legendary. So I thought that was a key element. What was Spirecrest? I'm sure it was included when I played.
Spirecrest is where you are going along. It's on the it attaches to the bottom of the baseboard, and it's where you can acquire the large animals that have the saddles that you put your meeples on.
Yeah,
and they have special powers when you place them. It also has different benefits whenever you go and explore. Each time you explore, and you go through the different seasons.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a great
one of your
expansion.
animals is like a little hiker, and it hikes it kind of takes like a journey to Spirecrest.
Your rabbit.
And your rabbit, and you get a bunch of perks and score, like a lot of like cool new like ways to score as you work that board.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Great expansion.
Yeah. Good times. So was that yours, Doug? And back to me?
That was Andy, and I was kind of adding to it. I'll just talk about another one really fast. Western Legends Ante Up. I think is a phenomenal expansion. And if you like Western Legends, this is definitely one you should check out. This is the one that adds the train that you can rob that goes around the board. It adds a whole new section, like a whole new town, an area that you can go and explore and do stuff on, and adds a new like poker game you can play, and a ton of like new cards and mounts and weapons and everything else to the game. I love Western Legends. It's one of those games that I just, every time I see it, I just regret that we don't get it played as much as I would like to play it, because it is really a phenomenal game. But Ante Up I think it is an essential expansion to play. If you've got people at the table who know this game at all, or at least experienced it and are familiar with it, you should definitely add it. Now, the Blood Money expansion is not. It doesn't have the same effect on the game that Ante Up does. Ante Up is an amazing expansion.
Yeah. So Andy, you and I played Western Legends at Julie's house.
I've never played it.
We played it at the first Tug of MeepleCon. You were there.
I was there watching, but I didn't play it.
Oh, that's probably why I had fun.
Wow. Ouch, that hurts me.
Wow.
But no, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it included the Ante Up or not, so I'm not familiar with. I don't remember a train.
Do you remember robbing trains?
I don't remember.
It probably wasn't.
But I want to try this game again too, because I did enjoy it, and maybe more so that Andy wasn't playing. But
you would have had so much more fun if I was playing. You were probably sitting next to Richie and still had fun.
No, I don't think Richie was there for that day.
I think it was actually Logan playing.
I don't think it was Logan either.
Wasn't it? Maybe it was Doug.
I wasn't there.
I can look it up.
It wasn't me. I've never played it. I really want to play this game. It looks amazing.
All right, going on to mine. The next one I have is probably the same one that's on your list, Andy, and that is Quacks of Quedlinburg and the Herb Witch expansion.
Absolutely.
I think you cannot play this game without the Herb Witch expansion. It is 100% a requirement and improves the game so much. It gives you the 3 coins that allow you to take that one-time action. There's some variety in those. It just is, I mean, Quacks is a great game on its own, but adding that Herb Witch expansion just pumps it up and makes it 100% better.
Yeah, it's one of those where why would you ever play without it?
Yeah.
You know, yes, you can, but honestly, it integrates so easily into the game and the benefits of the Herb Witches. And it's not like it's adding complexity, right? But it adds a layer of strategy as to when you're going to actually use that ability, because you can use it at any time during your turn. When you actually are going to use that ability can be very strategic and incredibly beneficial if you time it properly.
Yeah.
And the fact that it also, those are random when they come in, so it changes the game up. You can get different combinations with those 3 different Herb Witches. It's one of those that is, I agree with you, it is essential for the game. You always put the Herb Witches in. The Alchemist expansion is a lot of fun.
That's a great expansion.
I think it makes the game better as well.
I think especially for a gamer,
for sure,
the Alchemists is a need for that. But as the base game by itself,
100% with you.
Yeah. Alchemists you will add or take away depending on who you're playing it with and what kind of mood you're in. But Herb Witches is just one that's always,
you
just always
100%
play
agree.
with it.
Good pick. So, Doug, the next one I'm going to talk about, I know I've been talking with Richie about this a fair bit, and I think you have too, is the Alpine expansion for Forest Shuffle.
Yeah.
We've had discussions. We actually had a fairly lengthy discussion about this, Richie and myself, of he loves Forest Shuffle. Doug, you introduced me to this game, and I love it also. It's such a phenomenal game, and I've never played it without the expansion, and I can't imagine playing it without it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, this is one you mix in and just don't ever take out.
And because it adds more butterflies. Let's just score more points with butterflies. It adds just a lot more variety of ways to score points so that there's not a clear strategy that, you have to do this in order to win, or you have to do this. If someone's going for this strategy, you have to basically try to stop them from doing that strategy well and almost counter draft kind of.
It flushes out a lot of the scoring avenues.
It really does.
Like the base game is really good, but there were definitely like some avenues that were better than others, some that were harder to achieve. This just evens the playing field and gives you lots of options that are all flushed out.
Yes,
they all make sense and you can go a whole bunch of different ways. It also makes certain mechanisms in the game a little more viable, like the cave. Like you have more of an opportunity to tuck cards in your cave and
even
do some things like that.
I still think that's a weak part, and I'm hoping this new expansion that comes out will strengthen that at least a little bit. I think the cave is still kind of weak in my plays, where you want to time that just right, and it's always difficult to get it timed to where you really can add a bunch of cards into the cave with your bears.
With
and
the bear,
else.
right? Yeah. And this just adds just some passive. It's not like the big influx of cards into your cave like the bear can sometimes do.
Yeah.
This is just like some passive, like a card or two here or there.
For sure.
But then by the end of the game, it adds up into something that's significant and can, in a close game, change the outcome.
Difference. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is one of those that you just play with the expansion. It's one of those essentials, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it just fits right in the box. And
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it when, these little expansions just make a game so much better.
Yeah, I completely agree. Next one on my list is the Lost Ruins of Arnak Expedition Leaders. The Lost Ruins of Arnak is a phenomenal game, one that I love and wish we played more of. It's one that I, fortunately have gotten to the table quite a bit and have thoroughly enjoyed. Expedition Leaders in particular, though, this is the expansion that turned all of the players now have an asymmetric, because this is a deck building game.
Right.
With some caveats when you use the term deck building, because it's maybe not like traditional deck building, but this is what gives everyone asymmetric cards in their deck and a leader with asymmetric powers. It added like a new board and new cards to the markets and everything like that. This is one that, again, you talk about one of those expansions that just fundamentally changes the way a game should be played forever, right? This is one that every time you play this, even if you're playing with new players, everyone's going to want at least one of the asymmetric factions to play.
Maybe this would change my mind about this game.
Yeah, I have this expansion. I haven't tried it yet either. So maybe
Is this
the
one
three
that
of
you
us
guys
should get
don't
together.
like as much?
I'm not
I
a fan.
don't really like.
Really?
Yeah, and maybe playing it with the expansion will change my mind.
Let's play it with the expansion. I'll bring it and teach it.
I have it here.
We need to have a but mine's
I really don't like that game, but I own it and the expansion.
Yes, that's true.
Mine's ultra deluxeified though, so
Oh, okay. I do like the Luxify stuff. Where do I buy that?
I'll send you the links.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh.
But no, I'll bring like Dinogenics and Lost in Zarnak. We just need to have a game day. We need to have a game day where we just catch up on some of these games that we talk about. And
Oh yeah,
get
because
right-
I'm
get 'em to
quickly
the table.
running out of time on my Shelf of Shame that I said I was
Me
going to get
too.
to this year.
yeah,
I've been doing really well with Sierras, but not mine.
Yeah.
no, this is just a really, really good expansion. There's another expansion, and for some reason the name of it is escaping me right now. It's the Lost Expedition or something like that. But this is one that you always play with. Now there is like some of the leaders are more difficult to play than others. So if you've got new players at the table, you're probably going to give them one of the easier leaders to play, but it's one that you still always use.
I
when
think
you play the game.
you're thinking the Missing Expedition.
That's it. Yeah, that's the second expansion, and also a great expansion in its own right. Just not one that you're always going to play.
Gotcha. No, I think it might be worth trying it out again if it improves the game that much, because it just felt like something was missing for me. I think that was my biggest complaint about it. It's just like, okay, well, there's like going up that track on the side of the board is really what you're supposed to be doing, and it just, I don't know. It felt kind of vanilla to me, but I know there's a lot of people that really have a fondness for Lost Ruins of Arnok. So I don't want to
Well, moving up the side of the track is how you get the majority of your points. I mean, that is the point, but it's a little bit like saying like, well, earning points in this game is the best way to win it.
well, I know,
And
but
it's like, yeah. And I get that. Cause now that you say that, I'm remembering some of these conversations that we've had, and like, I get it, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Cause that is what the game is like trying to work your pieces up that track. But in order to do that, it's an efficiency puzzle.
it is. It just felt boring to me. So
I think that's where it kind of came down for me
It might
too.
have been the people that you played.
Could have been. Yep. It was the same time we were playing stuff like Terraforming Mars and
Ark Nova. No, we weren't playing Ark
Merchants of
Nova
the
at the
Dark
same time.
Road.
it was the dark age of long games. Yep.
So we just need to give some of these games a new go. But that was the one that I want to talk about.
Nice.
So next on my list is a game I've talked about several times and a must include expansions, and that is Hive. Hive must be played with both the Pillbug and the Mosquito expansions. The Pillbug allows you to save your queen. It allows you to protect some of your other pieces, and the Mosquito allows you to copy things that it's next to, which can also be super beneficial. In my opinion, very much game-changing mechanic in that game. And I know, Andy, we've talked about this in the past, that you need to get a shot to try this. And I think I committed to playing it on the plane with you on the way to BGG.
Yeah.
If we don't get to it before. So, but I'll have the pocket version that I'll for sure take on the plane with us. So,
Yeah, this is best at 2.
yeah. Well, because it's only at 2.
I know.
It is best at 2. Yes.
That's just what it tells me here. So
Yeah. I'm glad it clarifies that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that on the plane. So the next one should be no surprise to you guys, because it is one of my favorite games, especially lately, and that's Marvel Zombies. Every expansion I've purchased for Marvel Zombies, which I have all of them, has been awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been awesome. Adding extra heroes to play. I love having, there's just something about, we're going to play this game. Here's a huge stack of superheroes or zombie heroes to pick from. And you get to look at all of them and pick something. And some of the cool, not only is it cool to play the different heroes, but to see how the different heroes play and work together.
Yeah.
And how those abilities mesh from the different heroes and zombie heroes is so cool. And it's just, it is so much fun. Does it make, or do you have to have every expansion? Of course not. I mean, you could get the base game and have a ton of
Just
fun.
as much fun.
But does it improve my experience with every expansion I've had? 100%, because now my replayability factor went way up, because now I've got to try Wasp. Now I've got to try Hulk. Now I've got to try this, right?
Yep.
Not only that, it has a lot of them will have a zombie version and a hero version, so you can, and they have completely different abilities. So I can play as the zombie heroes with Silver Surfer, or I can play with Silver Surfer as just a hero and experience that particular character or the scenarios that come in those packs as well, because each pack comes with its own scenario.
And those scenarios are great.
They really are, and they're a ton of fun.
They're a lot of fun. Yep.
And so once again, does it fall in the essentials? No. Does it fall into the category of pretty much any expansion you get for Marvel Zombies? Is it going to improve your experience? 100% yes, it will.
Yeah.
Well, and they're all themed, right? So, if you don't want to own them all, but let's say you have a particular liking for, the Spider-Man, side of things, you can buy the Spider-Man expansion. If you really like the Guardians of the Galaxy, you go get that one. If you really like the X-Men, you go get that expansion. You know what I mean? So it does allow you to kind of pick and choose too. If you don't want it all, but you just, you want a few characters that I don't know, from your childhood or whatever, then, it gives you the opportunity to sort of piecemeal choose what you want to.
Yes, and the scenarios follow the storyline of that particular. Like if I'm doing a Fantastic Four, the story or the scenarios are going to follow the storyline of that Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Same thing with Guardians, right? You're going to end up fighting Thanos. So yeah, I think it's great. Do you have to play with all of the Guardians of the Galaxy if you're going to do the Guardians scenarios? No, you can play with anything. You can be a purist and just do that, or you can mix it up and throw, whomever in. You can throw the X-Men in. You can put old Logan or Wolverine in there and fight Thanos with Wolverine if you wanted to, for example.
Is there a Hell's Kitchen set?
Set, no, but there is a Daredevil.
Is there Daredevil?
There is a Daredevil.
Kingpin,
yes.
Is Kingpin in there?
No, there's no Kingpin. That would be a great expansion,
So
actually.
I was thinking Kingpin would.
That actually kind of surprises me.
Yeah, I was.
Just wait, maybe it'll come
Given
out.
the number of expansions and all the content that's in there, that surprises me. That's
So
not in there. But
for those of you in CMON that are listening,
We need some Kingpin.
we need some Hell's Kitchen stuff, please.
Yeah.
So
Is
the Defenders, Luke Cage, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Nope.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, there's plenty more to explore and to hopefully
Oh, for sure there is.
that they'll come out with that will increase the my collection.
Yeah, but then they've jumped to DC, which is
Oh, I'm so excited about
we're
that.
going to go to Doug's house to play that
Yeah,
one.
we'll have to go to Doug's house to play that one.
Deceased.
Yeah, but I mean, still going to required content for Zombicide. That first time we played
Oh, that's true.
with playing with those presidents.
Zombicide 2nd Edition President's Pack.
Yeah.
Essential.
I do own it. I did not get the
I'm way
Kickstarter, and I do own that pack. It was worth the $50.
I'm way excited because that
Who doesn't want to play with like Reagan's ray gun or Trump's golden AK-47s or whatever? I mean that was so much fun.
yeah, it was great. Yep, good times.
Good times.
Those little themes that just make the game phenomenal. Sorry, that was on your list, Doug. I stole that from you.
No,
I'm a jerk.
You're
that
all
way.
good. I've pretty much talked about most of the stuff that's on my list. There was some crossover there. Maybe a couple that I'll just toss out. Foundations of Rome monuments I put on there. Mostly just because like those are the best looking models in the game.
Yeah.
And you just randomly pick some cards. And so you don't play with all the monuments every time you play, but it adds a fun random element to have sort of public buildings that everybody can pull from. Definitely not essential, but super fun. And then the other one that I had on my list was It's a Wonderful World, the Corruption and Ascension expansion.
I'm totally with you on this.
Like this, again, falls into the category of like, you just always play with this. There's no reason to ever play It's a Wonderful World without this expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have that as part of that little expansion that you introduce it later, and goes back to kind of what you said with Champions of Midgard. This is just it makes the game feel complete.
Yes, I agree.
All right, going back to my list, I have Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, The Undercover Allies. This allows you to introduce some new roles. I mean, yeah, it has a lot of means and clues left behind, but the extra roles that it provides brings a ton of replayability to the game that was lacking in the base game. Base game was always still fun, for sure, no doubts about that, but having the extra roles and the undercover allies that will both assist the bad guys and help assist the investigators, I think makes this expansion essential to playing Deception.
I completely agree.
So I'm actually going to change something on my list.
Uh-oh, pulling an audible.
I'm pulling an audible. I'm actually going to replace one with a different one. So I had Thunderstone on my list, but I'm actually going to change it for Dominion Seaside.
Okay.
I think that if you're going to play Dominion, which I know Dominion is one of those, it's become just a classic game, right? It's been around for a long time. I think Seaside and maybe Prosperity are two that you basically just you play with cards from it.
All the time.
Seaside, especially when they first came out, Seaside introduced the duration cards.
Yes.
And without duration cards in the game, it's just not the same game. And Prosperity, just the entire expansion of Prosperity was just amazing. And it also introduced the colonies, which increases just ways to score points. So those two expansions in particular, I think are expansions that drastically improved Dominion. And I think whenever we do play Dominion, which is rare anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is.
I have all the expansions, and there are a bunch that I have never played, and I just keep finding myself wanting to go back to those two particular expansions because they were just so good, and they weren't overly complicated and didn't add a bunch of stuff that a lot of these other expansions add a bunch of things, and it's like, okay, yeah, that was all right. Almost overcomplicates a game that was already just great by itself, whereas Prosperity and Seaside did not. I don't feel like they did that. It just added to it and didn't take anything away from it, didn't overcomplicate anything. It was just wonderful how they implemented those two expansions.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have not played a ton of Dominion outside of like the core box. I mean, my wife and I played that a ton when I first picked it up, and then I picked up Prosperity. And we kind of, had both of those boxes, and then we played a bunch of that. And so for me, like those two, like that is Dominion. When you'd say like the base box with Prosperity, like to me, that is the Dominion experience. And so, I would actually be kind of curious to try Seaside, because when you say duration cards, and I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. We should bust that out.
We should.
Yeah.
It's a great game,
I also
though.
said we were going to get Firefly to the table this week, too.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you did.
Really? That's ambitious.
That was ambitious.
Wow.
Got so many games to play, guys. So many.
We have BGG coming up.
Oh, thank goodness.
The next one on my list, simple little game, much like Zombie Dice, and that is Chicken. Chicken is
You love these little.
I do love
these little dice chucking games. Yeah.
And Chicken has the egg expansion, which includes the dog and the chicken and the egg, which came first. I think this is just something that, it came in the Kickstarter as a set, and I think it's great, and you can't play it without it, because I think the dog in particular adds just a big element to the game.
Yeah. It's kind
Scares
of
away
just a
those
simple
foxes.
little dice throwing
Very
game.
simple.
But yeah, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't just have all those dice in there.
Yep.
Well, my final one is the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth.
This is great.
I think the expansions for this, just adding more characters, number one, it drastically increases the replayability, adding once again more monsters, more content just in general. It falls into the same category of Descent that I feel it's just increases the replayability, increases your enjoyment. I love some of the latest characters that came out, and when we haven't played since I've gotten that expansion, and I'm just itching to try them. It makes me excited to bust that game out again, and it's one of those things where extra content for specific games like this makes the enjoyment factor substantially higher.
Yeah.
And I think that we're gathered around the table to have fun, and if that expansion is going to increase that enjoyment and make it more fun, it absolutely 100% falls into this category. And I think the expansions for the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth definitely do that.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep. And really fun stories.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I really don't like the Fantasy Flight model where they do something very good and then they just stop it.
Yeah. I wish they would knock that off.
Yeah. I would love more content for this. I can't believe they tapped that well and made it dry, because there's still content in there that they could totally,
especially digital content.
Yeah.
That should be easy to come out with,
Yeah. So, and they did do that. They had
For a little bit,
the app, right? So that you had the core box that came out, and then they had an app only campaign that came out with that. And then I believe there was 3 expansions that came out for the game. And they kind of said, like, this is the trilogy of expansions. This is it. We're done. Or was it 2? Now I can't remember. There was, but each expansion, whether it was 2 or 3, had like a story, a new components, tiles, characters, everything that came in the box. But then after the box came out, there was a digital only story that came with it. So I was grateful for that, just because at least they gave us more than one story to play with that box of toys.
Yeah, I just wish that if they're going to end it and just close it off, open source it a little bit so that more digital content could come out.
Yeah.
Let the community make content if they're not going to.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. The last one on my list is Parks. And Parks has the 2 expansions, the Wildlife and the Nightfall. I think that you need to play Parks with those. I mean, they allow you to have I'm totally draw a blank on what they're called, but the overall end game scoring that you're going to get from the Nightfall expansion, I believe, where if you can have parks that have this in it or that in it, that's going to give you points. And just the content that comes in with both the Nightfall and the parks, the wildlife gives you much more variety, and it's just part of the game.
Yeah. Nightfall more so than Wildlife, I would say. Like Nightfall is like absolutely always. And Wildlife was a smaller expansion. Yeah. It just kind of added a few things. And so it's also like, it's definitely one of those where you just throw it in and you almost just kind of forget that Wildlife's even really in there.
You forget that it's separate. You throw it in and
just throw it in and it's always there. Yep. No, I agree. That's a good one.
So that concludes my list. That concludes your list, Andy.
Yeah. Hey, we're done.
And that concludes your list, Doug.
All done.
I think we came up with some awesome examples of games that vastly were improved with expansions. And definitely I can say that not every game is improved by expansions.
Right, yeah.
But definitely. These ones were for sure.
Yeah, and made better.
Yeah. Improved and made better and more fun and more enjoyable and better all around.
Yeah.
And improved.
All around.
Better. Good job, Nathan.
Excellent.
Until next time.
We'll see you making a better title or improving on this one at the game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.